in 3, 2, 1. So welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today I'm going to take these lights and I'm going to put them on that roof rack so we can kind of see where we're going. So yours truly's been out on AliExpress again. Probably should ban myself from it. But I bought a couple of these little LED lamps with little holders, little 12 volt ones. I didn't really have a plan of what I was going to actually do with them at the time. But once they arrived, I thought, well, we put them to good use somehow. So what I've decided to do with them is I can turn them into some driving lamps to give us some extra brightness on those dark nights and those country lanes and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to throw them up there and see what happens with them. So I've just dummied one up there on the roof. So we're going to go for that sort of placement, either side of the camera you can see there. I don't know how much beam patterns are going to end up on the road, but it certainly should light up the country lanes all right. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how the bracket's working and how we're going to mount it in just a second. Right, so these little lights I bought, as I said, they've got multiple rows of LEDs in there and some bigger modules in the side there. They're 12 volt, just come with a little tail. But what I wanted to show you is how we're going to get this attached to our rack. Now, I've been playing here already, as you can probably tell with the state of this bracket, but this comes as sort of like a straight bracket and there's a captive nut inside of this kind of channel. So I've cranked that down. But the plan is, and this will make more sense when I show you in a second, this bracket, it's a curve, and what the plan is, the channel, the Unistart channel we use for the roof rack, I've got more of those little kind of little Zebedee nuts, and what we're going to do is we're going to clamp that down into the rail to kind of hopefully achieve what we want to do. It'll make more sense when I actually get up there on the roof and kind of... Right, so up here on the roof, this is the front of the van with the channel, the Unistart channel on. You can see the bracket that I bent up and shown you earlier on. So we're going to go about halfway through, and this is going to lock in to this channel using one of these and some washers, and then we're going to kind of manipulate the angle that we want to get this installed. Now, because this is sort of captive and slides around, when I super trust it, I'm going to actually put some thread lock in this thread to make sure it doesn't come undone. And I will actually add a couple of safety kind of cable ties as well, just to make sure it doesn't escape, basically. And then we'll get on and do the sort of wiring loom side of it afterwards. So we just unbolted the bracket little thing. I'm going to do some thread lock on this. Fair bit, because like I said, I don't really trust it. And hopefully you can see the kind of little nut just slides around in under that to give us the adjustment. So we'll start it getting caught, and then we'll nip it up nice and tight then with the socket. And then hopefully we can get it mounted and pointed in the right direction. That's the plan anyway. So pop the little Zebedee in there, 9 kind of holes, or in between the holes obviously, because you want the spring sat on the base there. So 9 holes, which is about halfway between this side of the van and the center where the camera is. So I'll just turn that so you can see the camera a bit more. So camera's over there, we're about in the center there. So now we've got that sorted, we need to get this bolted down like this, and you see that angle I've put on this bracket. It's going to give us quite a reasonable fix in there. I might need to manipulate it, the angle up a little bit more, which I can do once it's bolted down in place. So we can slide that up and down, or even just put an extra bend in this bracket. Right, hopefully you can see what I've done there a little bit better. I've got quite a few washers on there, because the M8s I've got, I've only got 25s, I haven't got anything shorter. You can see the sort of principle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank this down now with the socket, and then hopefully be able to manipulate that up into an angle that's going to look pretty good. You can see I tucked the wiring loom in underneath. We'll get to the wiring loom in a minute. Right, so now we've got one manipulated in place. I think it's going to work okay. It's quite stable. Like I said, I might add an additional safety kind of cable tie just in case there's any tearaway, but those are thread locked in, so hopefully not. Right, so hopefully from the top of that you can see the sort of basic game plan. So I've got the second one now, so I'm just going to prep this one down here and just repeat the process. Then I'll come back and show you what they look like up on the rail there, and then we'll try and wire it up and see what we've got. Right, so I've got them both attached to that channel bar now. There's some adjustment to do in terms of getting them quite, you know, level and all the rest of it, but they're up there. So let's turn our attention to the wiring loom next. So all the wiring on the roof, there's two lights, so we need to connect both of them together with a feed down to a switch from in the van to make them happen. So I've got these little plastic boxes. They come with, I don't know if you can see that, a little rubber seal and a little lid. So I'm trying to drop the screws. So from the lid point of view, once the lid's on with the rubber seal, they shouldn't let any water in. We're going to drill some holes in the ends to have the cables come in and out, and then I've got some grommets to put in the end, and then we can seal that up with a bit of sealant as well, just to make sure we've got a result, and that should keep the wiring nice and dry up there. For those little holes at the end, you can use a Christmas tree bit or a step drill and just make those holes about the same size as this grommet. Right, hopefully you can see that okay. I've got the little box mounted on for the other camera, the other light over the other end. It's mounted up to the rail. We've got this box with the two cables coming in. I'm going to put a Wago in there and then put it down to the power source in a minute inside the van, and that will be cable tied to the top of there in the same way as the other one. Hopefully you can see that one alright. So that's what it's going to. Right, so we're all wired up now. Here's the lid with the little seal on it, screwed up in on top there. Cable tie the whole thing down there, and that's the boxes on the roof done. And then we're getting into the roof of the van itself to get power to this new. So this is the last of the work on the roof. You'll be glad to see. Get you some more footage. So we've put the boxes in. Both of the lights are now cabled in together using those Wagos in the boxes, like I showed you. Over here, I've just got the entrance point for the cable to go inside of the van itself, and we're going to run that down there. Just pop some sealant on all these bits just to kind of make sure it stays weatherproof. This weather, it's got a nice day today here, so hopefully this will dry out pretty damn quick and we'll be all good to go. So we're finished on the roof, so we've got to take the tools down. Now we're going to jump inside of the van and look at the wiring. In the van now, piece of good luck, we've got a toggle switch there in the van, which I hadn't really known where it went before, but I'm poking around it up here. I discovered it's a fused power cable run from the front of the van up over the sort of bulkhead trim and up into there. And I think this was previously, I would imagine, because the van was a 7-seater when I first got it. I think there was an old, as I seem to remember, there was an old DVD player in the back left over by the previous owner, which I ripped out. So this may have been the power source for that. So lucky for me, that's what we're going to do. We're going to nick that power supply. I mean, the switch is not in necessarily the greatest position that you'd want. However, I could move that at a later date if it becomes problematic. But for now, it will save us a little bit of time on this job. So hopefully we take that up. That switch button works and the lights light up. So I'll tidy that wiring up a little bit. The big turn on and see if they actually work now. Hit it. Wow, they look pretty good. So there we have it. We've added those driving lights up above for a tenner, which, wow, I mean, how cheap is that? We'll see how we get on with them. You know what I mean? I'm not super convinced by those brackets. I may need to remake them. And I'll see what it's like actually driving around with them in a dark country lane. Maybe I keep them, maybe I don't. But I think for the price, and if you want something like this, I mean, it's pretty cheap and the install was pretty painless. But anyway, with that said, I want to thank you for watching the video. If you would like it, I would really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do below. And if you have any questions about what I've used or any of the tools or anything else or doing anything like this, then please pop them in down below. We'll get some discussion going. I can answer any questions that you may have with it. But like I said, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next Hidden Gems video coming up soon.
3, 2, 1. Okay.